Today I'm going to be talking about Scream. Now I know that this movie is one of the most popular slasher movies ever made. It has one of the biggest fan bases I think I've ever seen. And actually a fan base is not nearly as toxic as some.
You talking to me? Well, who the hell else are you talking? Talking to me?
Now there are a few here and there, but it's still a pretty positive fan base. This is also one of the most consistent, I think, horror slasher franchises I've ever seen in my entire life. And I gotta be honest, I just did my top 10 slasher films of, it was like my favorite 10 of all time. And this one was, I think, my number 9, if I'm not mistaken. And I gotta be honest, I wish I can kind of go back and change that because this might be in the top 5. Now, there are a couple issues that I still have with the film that haven't really changed, but dude, this rewatch that I just did the other day, I haven't watched the movie in like 5 years. And this rewatch was the best rewatch I have had in my entire life since watching this movie. Like, I absolutely loved it. I think I loved almost everything about it. Again, I have a couple of issues. If you're unfamiliar with my channel and my videos and you're unfamiliar with how I do my videos, basically I'm going to give you everything that I loved and liked about the movie, a couple of things that I might have been a little mixed on, and then at the end of my review I will give you my negative thoughts or things that I just didn't like at all, things that didn't work for me personally. Then I will give you my overall rating, score, and overall thoughts of the movie. So please stick around for that if you're interested in hearing that. Also, if you were new here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and turn on your notification bell. That way you can stay up to date with everything that I put out there. So now jumping into everything that I absolutely loved and liked about the movie, just kind of iterating what I said earlier in the beginning of this video, is that I absolutely loved it on this rewatch. Now, this has always been a movie that I've loved and liked, but there were a bunch of things that I kind of just thought maybe didn't work for me growing up. There wasn't much there for a kid to watch and adore besides maybe some of the characters and the killer itself. But as an adult, and since I've been watching movies in a more, I'd say in a logical sense, with a more critical eye, not that I'm a critic or claiming to be, but with a more critical eye, this movie absolutely stand out with the slashers that I've watched and rewatched in this past year. And it's probably the biggest standout, I'm not going to lie to you. There's so many other things that I caught that I just really haven't caught before. For example, like the writing by Kevin Williamson is probably the best slasher writing I think I've ever seen. As far as the commentary, writing the characters, subverting of expectations with building characters off of caricatures. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought that I love how smart he made Sidney Prescott, and like I said, breaking down like old horror movie tropes and stuff with, you got Sidney on the phone, for example, and real scene, and she's talking on the phone with Ghostface, and she's talking like shit about other girls in horror movies, how they trip over stuff, and how she doesn't understand why they always run upstairs instead of running out the front door. And then the brilliant in the writing is that Kevin Williamson writes in how Ghostface chases her, and she immediately, it is proven that she's smart, that she goes for the front door. She's not just, BSing. She's serious. She means what she says. That's a big thing, and it's something so simple that many people probably wouldn't catch it, but also many would, and those who do catch it really appreciate it that she does go for the front door. But also he gives her a reason to run upstairs, again making fun of the movie tropes, messing with expectations a little bit here and there with that, like, the door's jammed so she can't go out the front door, she's forced to run upstairs. I thought that was really good, something that I've never caught watching the movie before. Of course I knew she ran upstairs, just the writing in that I've caught for the first time now. Also, this movie undoubtedly has one of the best openings to any slasher ever. You got it's brilliant marketing, honestly, how they hired Drew Barrymore with all these basically unknown actors, and also 2 actors who were TV actors within Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox. And they crossed over to film, which back in the 90s hardly ever happened. I think it was just now starting to happen, and it might have even been this film really to pick that up. But you got these 2 TV stars that no one even really knows a whole lot except for really Courtney Cox, and they're your main characters. And then you have who everyone thought was going to be your main character within Drew Barrymore killed off in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and it's absolutely amazing. It's tense, it's gripping, it's you can't take your eyes off the screen when Drew's on the screen. And I loved how they, again, subverted expectations. You had this big star. Of course, they're going to be our, final girl. And nope, this Craven and Williamson cut that off right at the knees, didn't they? And speaking of cutting, you cannot talk about this movie without mentioning Ghostface. Ghostface is an iconic killer, probably the most sold Halloween mask in history, even more than the Halloween mask of Michael Myers. The Ghostface mask is one that I see absolutely every single place around October. This one is a huge one, and I love the simplicity of the Ghostface mask, and how even the story behind it, how, you know, they got the mask, you know, they shipped a bunch of masks from a bunch of stores and stuff, and they were looking through the boxes, and you know, there was a couple they liked, a couple that worked, and I think Craven and Williamson really loved the look of this mask that we know and love. And there were some rights issues, and then I think they got a hold of the company that actually made the mask, and that company still owns the rights to the mask. I don't know the company's name, but that's just what I heard from, I'm pretty sure, like Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. But the looks are amazing. Roger, I forget his last name, but Roger L. Maybe that might have been his name or something. But he plays the voice of Ghostface. I love the behind the scenes stuff where the actors like Matthew and Skeet and Nev weren't allowed to see Roger nor hear his actual voice. It was to keep the tension actually real, and that really works. I love movie magic like that. It's so interesting. But he found a way to create this really awesome and creepy and eerie voice that still stands out today. He's also the voice of Ghostface in every single movie. And just to kind of wrap up my thoughts on the Ghostface aspect, that I love that they do something so different with it. It's a slasher, it's a whodunit, and there are two killers. I also love the reveal of the killers, with it, you know, end up being Matthew Lillard as Stumacher and Skeet Ulrich as Billy Loomis. And of course, their performances are great. As I mentioned with Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell, their performances are just fantastic. I love how once again with the writing by Williamson, with how he wrote Sidney Prescott. She's kind of starts off as like a survivor, more like Jamie Lee Curtis, but then almost immediately Sidney starts running to the killer. She's no longer running away, she's running to the killer. She's bar none like the most badass final girl ever created. And I also got to be honest, I don't really care for the character of Dewey by Dave Arquette. I think that it's a great character that grows throughout the franchise, but as a standalone in this one movie, it doesn't really work for me a whole lot. I find it more goofy than anything, but it's charming. When I say it doesn't work for me, I mean to take him seriously. But it works great as like a whole view of the franchise because, you know, he has a great character arc. But in this movie, it does take me out a little bit. It's pretty goofy, and I think honestly, Scary Movie kind of ruined the character of Dewey with Doofy. So that could be a me thing. Actually, it definitely is a me thing. But later on in the franchise, actually, they really grow to love this character. And Courtney Cox in this movie alone, I find super annoying. Now, that is pretty much meant to be. And I love her far more in the second film. I actually think that the second film might be my favorite performance of hers. I'm not really sure anymore. I'm rewatching this entire series now with the release of Scream 7. And as far as other characters and actors go, I really do love Jamie Kennedy playing Randy. And Randy is like my spirit animal in a sense. I absolutely adore everything about that character. I love how smart ass he is, how much he knows about films, and he's kind of the commentator on the meta-ness that they bring into the movie. And I also really do love the role of Tatum. And I do have a little nitpick. Not really a nitpick, kind of a big negative, but I'll get more into her character and something that happens later on at the end of this review. But to finish up all my love and everything that I found great about this movie, especially on this rewatch, is also without a doubt Wes Craven's direction. I think the way that he directs these characters, the way that he moves the camera, sets up shots, everything about what Wes Craven did in this movie is just golden. I think Wes Craven is one of the best horror directors out there. Now, he had a really bad slum of films after Nightmare on Elm Street, but he definitely redeemed himself with Scream. Now moving on into my mixed aspect, and something that still bothers me with the movie is that I do feel that it is a tad bit too long still. When I say the movie is too long, that's totally also personal preference, as in if the whole movie works for you, that's great. But if there are certain things that just don't work for you and you feel you could have done without, then that can definitely affect the runtime that you feel into the movie. It can take you out a little bit of the experience. A couple of things, especially in my negative, really did take me out a little bit. And so that does affect my runtime, the runtime that I feel, I would say. Or just maybe a couple of things that they could have done a little bit differently that might have earned the runtime for me just a little bit more. This is a 2-hour plus long movie, and that's a little crazy, especially for a slasher, but it does ride really, really well up until a couple of moments. And of course, with me feeling that way, it does take away the rewatchability a little bit still. However, it has actually earned a little bit of rewatchability with me this past watch. So take that with like a grain of salt. Now moving on to my negatives, and my biggest negative I would honestly have to say will be the kill of Tatum. Now, I love the character of Tatum, and I absolutely love Ghostface. The way Tatum dies, I feel like is just extremely goofy. How she's like through the doggy door in the garage, which could be an ignorant thing of me. For one, I don't even think I've ever seen a doggy door on a garage door, so that's a little weird. Her trying to escape through there, I get the logic of her just trying to escape, and that's just, you know, it's quick access and it's open. I get that, but I mean, come on, seriously, it's a little bit goofy, and I think that you could have done something goofy maybe with someone else's death, but with her death and the significance of her death, I think that was just kind of poorly handled. I really do like the character of Tatum, and I like the aspect of, you know, her boyfriend is Stumacher, who is the killer, or one of the killers, and she's also our main character's best friend. Now, with her dying, I'm totally fine with her dying. Like, that's so much, like, motive and energy for Sidney, especially to start chasing Ghostface instead of the other way around and going toe to toe with him. There's so much motivation in that, and I love that. But I think it was just kind of slightly poorly executed, and it does affect me and take me out of the film just a little bit because how silly it is. I think that it should have had more weight to it, I guess I should say. But I'm gonna be completely honest, that's really the only big negative that I have with the movie. I couldn't really think of anything else. I said there was a couple of things, and I guess I was kind of piling up my mixed and my negative together. That really is the only big problem I do have with the movie. So overall, guys, this really, if I was to redo my ranking of my top 10 slasher films, this probably really would make it into my top 5. But what's done is done. I really did enjoy this rewatch. I would definitely be rewatching this film more. I cannot wait for Scream 7 to come out. Please let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below about Scream. How excited are you about Scream 7 coming out? I think that the trailer actually looked really good. I don't watch horror trailers at all. I was pretty faithful in the Scream trailer not showing too much, so I went ahead and watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I loved Matthew Lillard. I love the character of Stumacher. I'm so excited for him to be back. What are your thoughts on Scream 7 and Stumacher coming back? Please let me know down in the comments below. If you like what you saw here and you want to see more from me, please hit that subscribe button. Once again, hit that like button, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell. That way you can stay up to date with every single one of my posts, and you're right there as soon as they come out. You can follow me on all of my social medias. They'll all be linked down in the description below, and I hope you enjoy watching this video just as much as I enjoy making it for you, and I'll see y'all next time.